Hi everyone, welcome back to Dobby Books, and in this segment I'm going to cover books that I'm currently reading and then some quick purchases that I made in the middle of the week at a different library. So let's get going. So what I am currently reading, let's go to the big one. I finally got to start reading David Copperfield as part of my Copperfield project that I mentioned in one of my previous videos. It's a thick book. I already knew it was going to take me a while. After I read this, I'm going to read Demon Copperhead and compare the two. Same format that I did with Huckleberry Finn and James. But what I didn't realize about David Copperfield is that at the beginning of the book, as a little boy, he goes through some terrible suffering. There's some physical abuse and some verbal abuse, and it was so hard for me to read that. Oh my gosh. I had to take a break. I actually started to get depressed, so I had to take a few days break from that. I'll get back to it, but that's where I am right now. I'm beyond chapter 5 where I'm sent away. He goes to the boarding school. I'm at the part now where he's coming back and visiting for the month. Right now I'm finishing up St. Augustine's Confessions. I have two translations. This one here is translated by Rex Warner, and this is a Signet Classic Edition. I also have a translation that's part of an anthology published by Roman Roads Press. It's part of their Old Western Culture series, which is a chronological study of history. It's the one that I'm currently using as like the syllabus for my studies. And the syllabus is part of this particular book here entitled Nicene Christianity. And their translation is by E.B. Pusey, P-U-S-E-Y. And I'll tell you why I preferred the one by Warner. In St. Augustine's Confessions, he mixes in scripture quotation with his own words. The one by Pusey doesn't differentiate the scripture quotations from Augustine's writings in a manner that I could see right off the bat. There's a scripture quotation. Here's Augustine's own words. Whereas the Warner translation italicized the scripture quotations and put Augustine's writings in a regular font. And the style of writing is different. So I'm going to read the first several sentences of book 1, chapter 1, paragraph 1, so you can see the difference in the two. So first we'll use the one in the anthology by Pusey, and here we go. Great art thou, O Lord, and greatly to be praised. Great is thy power, and thy wisdom infinite. And thee would man praise, man but a particle of thy creation, man that bears about him his mortality, the witness of his sin, the witness that thou resisteth the proud, yet would man praise thee, he but a particle of thy creation. Thou awakest us to delight in thy praise, for thou madest us for thyself, and our heart is restless until it repose in thee. The very famous first lines. So that's the translation by Pusey, and that's what it sounds like. And it's all in the same font. Now I'll read you the translation by Warner. Great art thou, O Lord, and greatly to be praised. Great is thy power, and thy wisdom is infinite. And man wants to praise you. Man who is only a small portion of which you have created, and who goes about carrying with him his own mortality, the evidence of his own sin, and evidence that thou resistest the proud. Yet still man, this small portion of creation, wants to praise you. You stimulate him to take pleasure in praising you, because you have made us for yourself, and our hearts are restless until they can find peace in you. And you can see here that the scripture quotations are italicized. You see that? And that St. Augustine's writing is in regular font. For me, now I can see, here's scripture, here's St. Augustine. In the first translation, because it was all in the same font, I wasn't always able to capture which was scripture and which was not, because the style of writing as well was the same as the scripture, at a very King James kind of style to it. Whereas in the Warner translation, Augustine's words are in a more contemporary English form, and the scriptures remain in more of a King James kind of style. So this was better for me. All right, I'm almost done. I'm in book 10, and there's 13 books in it. I'm captivated by this. I'm absolutely captivated by Augustine's Confessions. This is not the first time I'm reading it. I read it for the first time sometime in 2016, 2017. I never really finished it. Maybe I got through the first 3 books. It seemed like a slower process at that time. But I guess like anything, depending on what's going on in your life at that particular time, where you're at, you just have a different experience with a reading. So I'm glad that this time it's going well. Now let me show you really quick some of the books I purchased a few days ago at the Camarillo Library, which is a beautiful library in itself. When you walk inside, oh, it's just gorgeous. But outside the library, attached to the same building, they have a separate bookstore and cafe. The bookstore are all used books that are donated or that the library doesn't need anymore, and they're selling them on a daily basis, and you can walk in at any time, buy your books, drink your coffee, chill out on the little patio. It's really a beautiful library. And these are the things I got. I got another book from the Great Illustrated Classics series, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. So that's going to go over in my bookshelf with juvenile literature. I also found I saw the movie. I had no idea it was from a book. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button and Other Jazz Age Stories by F. Scott Fitzgerald. It's like, I didn't know that, but this is awesome. I learned something new, so now I'm going to read the book. And I got, get this. Here's a book that I'd been stalling about buying, because it's by Leo Tolstoy, and I already had a couple of his books, and I thought, I don't know, do I really need this other book? But it's part of a series, and it'll look so nice, and blah, blah, blah. So long story short, I see it at the library for maybe $2, less than the $16, which isn't a lot either way. But I couldn't resist, so I got it. It's part of a Penguin Classics deluxe edition that I could add to my own collection, and it's Anna Karenina. It's in great condition. I don't even know if the previous owners even read the book. It's in great condition. The spine's intact. It looks almost brand new. So I'm very happy with this purchase. And the other book I found, Edith Hamilton wrote this book, Mythology. I already had this. But what I did know is she had written other books. One of them was called The Roman Way, the other one was called The Greek Way, plus she translated a play by Aeschylus. She also wrote Prometheus Bound, and one other thing. And the one that we know about is Mythology. And just like the week before that I went to the library, I came upon an article that was talking about Edith Hamilton and a new biography that had been written about her, and the author's name is Victoria Hausman. The title of the book is called American Classicist, and it goes into more of Edith Hamilton's life. She was not an academic. She was the headmistress of a brand new school back then, which was called the Bryn Mawr School for Girls or something. Bryn Mawr School for Girls in Baltimore. We all know that college now has been forever. So from 1896 to 1922, she was the headmistress. Shortly after her retirement, W.W. Norton wanted to purchase translations of classics because they had become, in the 1920s, they were experiencing this revival in classic books. And so they approached her and asked her if she'd be willing to translate some books. So she did. And I want to list the books I got. Let me see. There was Mythology, The Greek Way, The Roman Way, Agamemnon, Prometheus Bound, and Trojan Women. And this biography goes in, just give you little snippets of it. In her youth, she was an activist with the women's suffrage movement. She was a breast cancer survivor. And she had romantic partnerships with other women. And I'm sure that was like a really well-kept secret back then, because this was what, the 1930s? And it's just a very fascinating woman. It's just a stuff I just didn't know that I thought was just wonderful. And I printed out the article because I wanted to save it with my mythology book so I could have some information about Edith. And wouldn't you know it, when I'm at this book sale in Camarilla, what do I find? The Greek Way. I was so excited. Like, oh my gosh, I just read about this. These aren't apparently as easy to find as the mythology book. So I'm glad I found this. Maybe I'll get lucky again at another place and find the Roman Way and just add it to my collection. And then, last but not least, I stopped at Barnes & Noble in the middle of the week. And I had just, I know what happened. I had received some information from St. John's College on their graduate program, and one of them was on liberal arts, which studies the great books, basically. And this is what I'm interested in. And I looked at their syllabus, their list of books, and it's almost identical to that of Memoria College. Same thing, which is another college that I'm considering for my master's. And one book was mentioned there. I don't know what the details are, but it stuck in my head. So when I was over at Barnes & Noble, meandering around, I thought, well, let me go look upstairs and see if I can find this particular book. And I found 2 copies of it, and I preferred the one over the other, and it happened to be the exact same book that was on the list from St. John's College, The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. And this particular book I preferred. Not only is it bigger, the cover got my attention, but what I really appreciated about it is that the font was an easier to read font. The margins were very good on this. The floppability of the book was great. This particular one is purchased by the University of Chicago Press. It's $12, so not bad. So those were all my books. And that's it, everybody. Have a good week. Be safe, be happy, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.